Alright, okie dokie then, you lot. Episode 3 now. We're on episode 3. This is where we start to get exciting. A lot less talking rubbish and trying to tell you lot what to do now. Hopefully you've been out and you've bought yourselves a car. And if you haven't already had one, you've already got one. So if you haven't seen episode 1 and 2 and you're thinking about getting a Nitro car, go and watch episode 1 and 2 and hopefully that'll help you understand the fundamentals and the basics of Nitro and help you to make a better decision on what one you need to buy for your first car. If you've been out and bought an FTX Carnage, that'll be perfect for you because that's the example that I'm going to be using for the entirety of this beginner's series, the FTX Carnage. We might venture onto a few other cars as well, but the FTX Carnage is going to be the main feature. It's going to be the main car. So let's have a look at putting in the battery, setting up your servos so that they're working properly and won't cause you any trouble when you're first trying to start it up and drive it around, because a lot of people have trouble with the servos. They think it's something else. They think it's the engine. They think something, but it's not. It's just because they haven't set it up properly, because they don't know how. So, and some people aren't capable of working stuff out for themselves, you know, so that's where I come in. I'm here to help you. I'm here to help you out. I'm here to get you going. So, FTX Carnage. We haven't yet put a battery in it. Let's put a battery in it and go from there. Right. So, you've got your car. You got it out of the box, or if you bought a second-hand one, you've either received it in the post and you got it out of the box, or you've gone and picked it up. Whatever. If you've got a brand new one, you've just taken it out of the box. I said to you in the first episode to go and buy yourself a hump pack. If you bought a hump pack, brilliant. Hopefully you've charged it up and it's now fully charged. If you haven't bought a hump pack and you're going to be using the battery holder with the 4 AA batteries, this method, what I'm going to do is exactly the same, but I would recommend you put a cable tie or some sellotape around all 4 batteries to keep them in place, because they can come out inside the box and then you'll have no control over your car. They must be connected at all times. Now, all you got to do, get your battery pack and your little wire that comes out the bottom of the switch. There's the switch, there's a little wire. Plug it in. I will mention, a lot of the battery packs that you can buy these days, let me get an example. This is an example. This is an old school hump pack. It only had one wire coming out of it. So you had to buy the one with the correct connector, because there's a 3-pin, although they still only had 2 pins, but there was a 3-pronged connector or a 2-pronged connector. You could just snip, if you've got a 3-pin one, like what this used to be, you might be able to see, because it's black. The 2-pin was usually red, but this one used to be a 3-pin one, and I just literally cut. You can see where I cut it, look. I cut the end of it, the side of it off, so that it fitted in the 2-pronged connector that side, the female version. That's what normally the 2 pins are red and the blacks. That's what it used to look like. All I done was cut the side off there to make the black one into a 2-pin one. Anyway, so old school, they used to come one wire and you buy the correct one what you needed. These days, most of these batteries come with both. They're hermaphrodites. They have female, oh, not female and male, that's wrong. They have 3-pin and 2-pin connectors. So you can buy one battery and have both the connectors what you need. And the good thing about these ones is you can still keep that one plugged into your car and use this one to charge, so you don't have to unplug it to charge the battery up. Unlike these ones, you have to unplug it in order to charge up the battery. Anyway, so if you bought one of these double ones, happy days. If you bought one of these single wire ones, still the same method. Plug it in like that. Now it's plugged in. All you got to do is finagle it and get it inside the battery box. Sometimes easier said than done, depending on what type of battery box your car's got. RC manufacturers are certainly not renowned for making this easy. They usually make it quite difficult, making the battery box far too small for what you need it to be. But once you've done that, you just do up the 2 screws, whatever you need to do, and we'll move on. Right, so now you can see I've got my battery tray all done up. It's only 2 screws on a Carnage. Some cars are different. Savages, for example, is a bit more difficult. To be honest, the Carnage is fairly easy to do. They could do with making the battery box a bit bigger, but it is what it is, and we deal with. There's plenty of space to make it bigger, so I don't know why they didn't. I mean, look how much space more there is there to make the battery box bigger, but they didn't, so we just deal with what we've got. So now, this is the time now when you can turn it on and see what you've got. Hopefully you've put some batteries, some AA batteries, or whatever your transmitter takes, normally AAs, in the bottom of there. So you can open up your little lid, or do whatever it is you need to do. Turn on your transmitter. Now if you've bought a brand new car, it should be ready bound. So the transmitter should already be connected and getting the signal to your receiver. So if you turn that on, you should get movage. If you bought a second-hand one, if it's been used before, it should be bound, but you never know what you're getting when you buy second-hand, so it might not be. So I'm going to do a separate video on binding your receiver and transmitter, because it can be a bit tricky sometimes if you're a beginner. If you know what you're doing, it's easier, but if you're a beginner, it can be a bit tricky. I found it tricky when I first done it. It took me a bit of time to work it out, but because I was used to FM and crystals and that, just put a crystal in each one and boof, there you go. Whereas this modern days binding, it's a bit more tricky. Anyway, so we're assuming that you've turned your stuff on and your steering is working. If you find that you turn right and the wheels go left, that's very simple to do. On your transmitter you should have ST and then .REV, rev, that's steering reverse. Flick that switch and now the right goes, well in my case the right goes left and the left goes right, but in your case it will be the right goes right and the left goes left. Same for throttle. Okay, that, when you do that, that should be opening throttle. That should be go. Yeah, tick over or stop, go. Okay, when you put the trigger forwards, that should put the brakes on. Okay, so now you're doing brake. You can do reverse, and now you'll see down there as well, that is actually brake and that is go, but that's incorrect. That's not the way it should be. I don't know why they've got it on there like that, but they have. You can drive it like that if you want to, but it's not a good way to have it because you'll never get full throttle and it's just quite awkward. But if that's what suits you, fine. So we got go and we got stop. Now we know that it's actually working. Let me just quickly show you what it looks like close up. Right, now we're zoomed in on the servo and the throttle, which is there, and the brakes, which are there. That's the brakes. Okay, so one servo does the throttle and the brakes. When we do throttle, that should go all the way. Yeah, you should see the throttle there opening all the way till it can't go no more. That is it. And then when we do brakes, it should go the opposite way. Throttle shouldn't move at all. Little spring moves there, but we get brakes. We've definitely got brakes. That is it. And when we're in the neutral position, so the trigger is not being touched, we should be 0. Yeah, the throttle should not be moving. And throttle, no throttle. Everything goes back to the 0 position. If that's not the case, I'll show you how to mend that in another video. But for now, that's all you need to know. If you've need minor adjustments, you've got throttle trim on your transmitter. You can open it or close it a little bit with that. There will be a full in-depth video within this beginner series somewhere on how to make proper adjustments. But because it will make this video very long, I'm not going to do it in this one. Normally, if you buy one from the factory, it'll be fairly close and good enough. Let's have a look now. Starting up your engine. What do you need to do before you can start your engine up? So these little Nitro engines, they will start up more or less any ambient temperature. But for the ease of a beginner like you, I recommend, well, to be honest, it's good for them anyway to be heated up. And I'm on about these low compression, ready to run engines, by the way. Some of you are probably going to mention, what about race engines? You must heat them up. You must heat them. I'm not interested in any of that rubbish. I've said it before, and I'll say it again for those of you that know what you're doing. You're advanced, you know, you've been in the hobby for a while, but you still seem to think that all the beginners know what they're doing. They don't, which is why I'm here trying to help them, and so should a load of other people trying to help a beginner. Yes, you should heat a race engine up. You should heat any nitro engine up, but they will start from an ambient temperature. But as I say, for the ease of a beginner, let's warm the engine up first, because it'll make it easier to start up. Now, you can use heat guns and engine heaters. So, I've got some examples here. You can buy these, they're about £20. Engine heater, alright, you can get them from any good RC shop. You can get them on Amazon and eBay, but they're a bit more expensive and I wouldn't trust them. Go to your local model shop, a local one, or go on the internet onto a reliable model shop such as Wheelspin, Model Tune, any of those good ones. You know, I think Active Scale have them, loads of other, the proper model shops, yeah, trusted, reliable shops. Engine heater, okay, but you will need a LiPo battery because they need around 7.5 to 12 or 13 volts to work. They won't work with a nickel metal hydrate, 6 volts or anything like that. Well, they will work with a 7.5 volt, no, it's 7.5 volt, bloody, sorry, ignore that. 11 volts. You need a 3S LiPo, not 7.5. Ignore what I just said. You need an 11 volt LiPo 3S or a 12 volt car battery, just like this one here. You can use, or you can use the battery on your real full-sized actual car, something like that, or the cigarette lighter. But a LiPo is the way to go for one of these, and that just goes around the engine like that, and it heats up to 200 something degrees to warm your engine up. If you've already got a heat gun, you might already have one of these in your tools. If you've got tools, a battery heat gun like that, and just this one's actually run out of that battery. Oh yeah, it's not got enough battery in it. Battery heat gun, or a mains powered heat gun, or just a hairdryer. Heat it up with a hairdryer. Go and nick the missus's hairdryer, you know, and warm your engine up. If you're out and about, you can put the car itself in the footwell of your real car, put it in the passenger side, put the heating on feet, turn the heating all the way up and blow, and by the time you've got to wherever you're going, your engine will be nice and warm, ready to be started up. But for the purposes of this demonstration, I'm probably going to use a heat gun to warm it up first so that we can easily get it started. Right, before we do any heating, so you got your nitro now. If you did what I told you to do, you would have gone out when you bought your car and you would have got some 16%. 16. You can run these little engines on 20 and 25%, but I recommend running them on 16% if you're a beginner, because it'll be easier to start and it'll run better on 16. There will be some people that say don't run these engines on 20 and 25 because they're too small to be run on that amount of percentage, but I disagree with that completely, but that's a different story for a different video. 16% for a little engine like this on an FTX Carnage. So we need to put some in. Don't listen to a lot of videos and people that you'll hear saying about all the rubbish that they'll go on about. So we just pour it in like that. Very, very simple. We don't need to worry about too much. Like that. You get people worrying about the fuel sucking up moisture from the air and all this bollocks, which is completely and utterly rubbish. It's just not worth worrying about, okay? You can have this container opened up, as long as there's no actual water going into it, such as rain and condensation, it'll be fine. I've got nitro bottles that are years and years old, and there's no problem with them whatsoever. I've got nitro which is 20 years old and I still use it to this day. So we've got nitro in our tank. We take off this little pipe that goes onto the top of the exhaust, and we just open up the throttle, so we go like that, and then we blow down this pipe. Not too much because you'll flood it. Now, this is where we start heating up our engine. Right, that should be warm enough now. You're going to say to me, there's going to be people, there are people out there that go on about thermometers and temperatures and all of that. As a beginner, I'm going to tell you not to worry about that, because it just adds complication to the whole thing and makes it. There's people out there that make things sound complicated because they think that's cool, they think that's good. If they make things sound complicated, it makes things sound good. In my opinion, it makes it worse. We want simplicity. We don't want complications. So just heat it up, I'm going to say for 2-3 minutes with a heat gun until it's hot to the touch. You touch that, and it's not unbearable, but it's you know, like, oh, that's definitely hot. So we've primed it, we've heated it. Happy days. Now we're ready to go. So we've got to take our glow starter, which we've fully charged before this, because I've told you to go out and buy a glow starter, and obviously it's common sense that you're going to have to charge it before you use it. So you will, hopefully you will have charged this up before this point. Now, simply make sure that your receiver is on, your transmitter is on, and as I said, make sure that we're in the neutral position here. The throttle is closed. Look at this before you try and start it, because if it's open, when you start it, it's going to want to rev and it's going to want to try and go. And that's where a lot of people start to panic, and then they get put off from Nitro because they panic, because they haven't set it up properly. That's on 0. Throttle is closed. Glow starter on. And then all we have to do is simply hold the car like that, pull on the pull start, Right, there we go. Now, this is another good example. It won't start. So what do? We give up. No, we don't give up. No. We don't give up, my friends. We get one of these. If you bought a car brand new, then one of these will have come with your car in the box. If you bought second hand, you might have got one with it. If not, you have to go and buy one. Or just use, no, it's an 8mm, 8mm, yeah, 8mm socket basically. Just get yourself an 8mm socket and take that glow plug out. Now what we can do is we can test our glow plug and our glow starter at the same time. Now there's our glow plug, and you can see just inside the glow plug is a little spring. Well, that spring's called a filament, and in that filament, not in that filament, but that filament should glow like that. We can see that that is glowing nicely, although it's actually starting to not glow the longer it's being lit for, which could mean that either our glow starter is going a bit flat or the plug is a bit dicky. Now you might be thinking, how do we tell the difference? Well, if you've only got one glow starter, you can't test it against another glow starter, but I've got more than two glow starters, so we can see what one the problem is. Now with this glow starter, it doesn't really glow any better. It's kind of on and off. Let me just clean the contacts. Make sure that is clean. That's where a lot of people go wrong as well. If there's all nitro and oil and dirt on the contacts, negative being the outer thing here, positive being the middle piece of metal in the middle there. If there's dirt, that won't make a very good connection, so let me just clean that. Just something to point out, you can take these glow starters apart completely to clean inside them. The same for these ones, little grub screw there. That'll be a different video. Leave it in the comments if you want to see a video on how to take apart a glow starter and clean it. I will do that if I need to. So, now we've cleaned the contacts on here. Let's see, is that glow plug? It's glowing, but the end of it isn't glowing particularly well. It's kind of on and off. So, let's go and get a spare glow plug and see what the difference is there. I've got my little drawer of glow plugs. Now I understand that you lot as a beginner won't have loads of different glow plugs and parts, but I just want to show you what to do, because if you get a bit frustrated because it won't start, if I can show you what to do, then you'll just be able to just go out and buy yourself a new glow plug, and hopefully you should be well away then. So let's get that. See, that plug is glowing a lot better than the plug that we took out of the car. This is the one that we took out. It's glowing, but not all that much. And if we just put this spare one in that I've got here, look how much better that one is now glowing. That is fantastic, perfect. That's exactly what we want. So what I'm going to do, to save opening up a new packet, I'm going to take the copper washer off of the glow plug that wasn't quite working very well. Should be able to do that, and put it on this old but good one, and then we'll put this one in this engine, and now hopefully we should have go. I'm kind of pleased in a way that my example didn't really go to plan, and this has happened because this is the reality and this is what the hobby is. This is why I said what I said in episode 1. Some of you might remember in episode 1, or it might have been 2, I think it was episode 1, I said, if you don't like tinkering, if you don't like fiddling, if you don't like mending, if you don't like things like that, for example changing glow plugs in and out, you're in the wrong hobby. Because the hobby of Nitro and the hobby of RC in general is about mechanics. It's about mending things, it's about tinkering, it's about taking things apart, it's about when something doesn't work, you take it apart to make it work. That's what the hobby is. So in my demonstration we've got, for argument's sake, a brand new truck, and for some reason the glow plug appears to have gone bad already. Just one of those things. But if you don't like those things, have another think whether you want to be in the hobby of Nitro. So here we go. Glow plug, not a new glow plug, but a different glow plug is in the engine. Let's see if it's going to start. I've got a different glow starter. I don't know why. Let's see what we've got. There we go. Now that is a perfect example. I'm happy about that. Now to stop your engine, all you do, put your exhaust pipe there, get your finger, just put it over the end of the exhaust there. It won't burn your finger, it's not that hot. You get a little bit of oil on it, but that's it. It's normal, by the way, for a bit of unburnt fuel to be spitting out the exhaust. Completely normal. If that doesn't happen, your engine is not running properly. If your engine is running properly, there will be unburnt nitro spitting out, unburnt oil spitting out. Right, so that was a bloody good example. So like I said, I'm actually really happy that it didn't start up and it didn't run perfectly to start with, because that does happen, and of course it does. But the fact that it ran for a bit and then it stopped and the glow plug decided it wasn't going to work anymore is good, because it shows you lot what can happen and how to get around that problem. A bad glow plug is probably one of the most common things what happens to a nitro engine, just the same as a bad spark plug could stop a petrol engine from running. A glow engine relies on its glow plug, and they do go bad. They do stop working because they wear out. It's as simple as that. And even brand new ones can wear out quickly. It's just one of those things that's in life. and all you got to do is change it. So you see what I done, and you saw as soon as I put a different glow plug in that worked properly, fired up on the second pull and run like an absolute dream. So if that happens to you, try doing what I just did. Now I'm going to give you a little bit of a sneaky peek into episode 4 about running in, because we've managed to start the engine up. I don't want to make these videos too long. I want to make them a reasonable length. So I'm going to do the next in episode 4 is going to be running in. Now running in a short term, in a nutshell, is breaking in your engine. In England we call it running in. I know in all the other countries you just simply call it breaking in, but we call it running in. Now it's just you've got all your piston and your liner and all your bearings. They're all tight because they're all brand new. They need to be ran, they need to be moved around, they wear in, do you know what I mean? They find their seat and they wear in. You need to do that properly, otherwise your engine won't be much good. It will wear out faster than it should do, it won't have as much power as it should do, and it won't run properly ever. If you've ever had a real full-size actual car that you drive and it's never quite run right, it's probably because when it was brand new, the person who owned it first didn't run it in properly. They probably got it from the showroom and ragged the hell out of it, and it will never run right. So it's a bit of a sneaky peek. Once you've got it started, you need to let it run at tick over, or a bit of a high tick over, for about 3 to 4 tanks. I'd normally do about 2, but I'm going to recommend 3 or 4 to make sure it's properly bedded in before you start driving it. Now it's completely normal. A lot of people panic and they send me messages all the time saying, when in my car I'm trying to run it in, but the wheels always want to keep spinning. They don't ever stop spinning. They just want to keep spinning. And I say that's completely normal, because it should do. It should want to try to move. You can put it up on a block if you want, so the wheels are freely spinning. Just leave it. I leave mine on the floor. I don't have the wheels spinning personally. I leave it on the floor and just let it do its thing. Just sit there ticking over. You want to make sure that it does keep heat in it, because during the running in process, any engine, not just Nitro, but any engine needs to have plenty of heat in it. If it goes too cold, it won't bed in properly. The piston and the liner won't find its wear. The bearings won't seat, the seals won't seat properly because they're too cold. They need to keep their heat in it. The heat's roughly about 100 degrees Celsius, and maybe a little bit hotter than 100 degrees Celsius. I don't know what it is in Fahrenheit because I don't work in Fahrenheit. Work it out. Find a conversion if you work in Fahrenheit. Now you can do that several ways. You can put a little blanket over the top there, a little towel or something to keep the heat in, or if you're in a hot country, or if it's the summer and you're somewhere where it's nice and hot already, 20-25 degrees outside, it'll be perfectly hot enough running there ticking over by itself. If you're in the winter or it's a cold country or whatever and the temperature is below 25 degrees outside, I'd recommend that you stick a towel over it, you keep a heat gun on it, or you put the little engine heater thing over it. If you bought an engine heater, just leave it on. You don't have to have the engine heater actually turned on, just leave it over the engine just to keep heat in it. And I would recommend as well that now and again you just give it a little blip of the throttle just to clear out too much oil, because the oil will build up in the crankcase and it'll stop it from running if it gets too much. A bit like when you get a bit of a blocked nose, your head, and you can't breathe properly and you can't swallow properly, same sort of thing with an engine. Too much oil, blocked nose. But as I said, we'll go through all of that running in process in episode 4. Episode 4 is going to be running in and the first drive, because obviously you need to drive it to complete the running in process. So hopefully now, with what turned out to be a good example, because it didn't work for me, which is good. Hopefully that's helped you. You bought yourself a Nitro car, either new or second hand. Hopefully for you, when you tried to start it for the first time, it did start and it ran perfectly and there was no problem. But if you come across a problem and your glow plug stops working like mine did, you'll now know what to do and how to look at it to determine whether your glow plug is working or not. Just to recap on that, to determine whether your glow plug is working or if your glow starter has gone flat, really you do need 2. You need either 2 glow plugs or 2 glow starters. So for example, if your glow plug, if you put it on the first one and it doesn't glow, or it glows a little bit but not very much, what one is it? Well, you can either charge up your glow starter, come back a few hours later and try again, and it might glow because that might be flat, in which case carry on with life. If you charge up your glow starter and you put the old glow plug back in again and it doesn't glow, you need a new glow plug. Go and get a new glow plug, put that in, see what happens. If you've got more than one glow starter, you put the old glow plug in there, doesn't really glow, put it in there, it glows. Okay, this one is flat. If you put the glow plug in there, it doesn't really glow, you put it in there, it doesn't really glow, you need a new glow plug. That is assuming that both of these are charged. I don't really need to explain any more about that because it's common sense. I mean, I've explained to you the fundamentals of how to check a glow plug and what you need to do. But if you can't work out that you need to charge up your glow starters in order to do that little test, I think we've determined that you're definitely in the wrong hobby. So before this gets too long and you lot completely decide not to watch any more of this series, I'm going to go. And I'll see you lot on the next one, episode 4, which will be running in. Thanks for watching so far, and hopefully I'm helping you lot get into Nitro, because I really don't want people saying that Nitro is dying. Nitro is not dying, my friends. The people are dying. The modern generation is what is dying off. The hobby of Nitro is still there, just like it always was. It's the modern generation of people which are incredibly lazy and don't want to learn a new skill or don't want to follow an interest, so they can't be bothered. Not only that, there's people saying making Nitro seem more complicated than it really is, which puts people off. Nitro is not complicated at all. It's incredibly simple and incredibly easy. But people putting things out there, you could call it false news if you want, making it sound a lot more complicated and difficult than it really is, putting people off. People aren't buying Nitro. The companies are stopping making Nitro, which in a way I suppose is making it die off. But it's only because of the people, not because of Nitro, not because of the companies. It's because of the modern generation of people. Treat people nice, treat people fairly, treat people how you'd like to be treated, and we should all have a nice happy life. I'll see you lot later on. All the best.